The reception floor froze when the elevator doors opened. 3 identical boys stepped out, barely 12 years old, wearing neatly pressed but slightly oversized school uniforms. Their shoes were polished but scuffed at the toes, like they had been worn with care for a long time. Each held a thin folder to their chest as if it were armor. Conversations died mid-sentence. Assistants stopped typing. Security straightened instinctively. The tallest of the 3 took a breath that sounded heavier than it should. Have been for a child and spoke softly, yet clearly, to the receptionist. "Dad's sick," he said. "We came instead." The words were simple, but they landed like a dropped glass, sharp, confusing, and impossible to ignore. The receptionist blinked. This was Helix Global's executive floor, where even senior managers booked appointments weeks in advance. Children didn't wander in. Triplets certainly didn't replace a scheduled candidate for a high-level corporate audit presentation. She glanced at the appointment list again, already knowing what it said. Same surname, same time slot. The man scheduled to present the internal ethics review was missing. Security moved closer, but something stopped them. The boys weren't playing. They weren't scared either. They stood straight, shoulders tight, eyes focused forward like soldiers trained for one moment only. Whispers rippled across the floor. Some thought it was a prank. Others assumed negligence. A few senior executives exchanged annoyed looks, already preparing complaints. The meeting they were about to interrupt involved the billionaire CEO himself, a man known for canceling entire contracts over minor delays. Inside the glass-walled boardroom, the CEO watched silently. He hadn't spoken yet. He simply observed through the transparent wall as the triplets stood their ground. His expression was unreadable, the kind that made people nervous during earnings calls. The receptionist finally asked the obvious question. "Where is your father?" The middle one answered this time. "Hospital. He collapsed last night. He told us not to come. We came anyway." That sentence shifted something. Not sympathy, something deeper, unease. Because the man they were talking about wasn't just any employee. He was a mid-level compliance officer who had quietly requested a direct audience with the CEO after uncovering irregularities in one of the company's most profitable divisions. He wasn't known for drama. He wasn't ambitious. He was known for being painfully honest, and honesty was dangerous here. The CEO raised a finger. Security stopped immediately. He pressed the intercom button inside the boardroom. "Let them in." The doors opened. The boys walked past men in suits that cost more than their family's yearly income. Their identical faces made it hard to tell who was leading, but it didn't matter. They moved together, united by something invisible. Inside, the room felt colder. The CEO leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "You understand this is not a place for children?" The shortest triplet nodded. "We understand. But this wasn't just Dad's work. It was his truth." That word, truth, made several executives shift uncomfortably. One of them, the head of operations, clenched his jaw. He knew exactly what file was supposed to be presented today. The boys placed the folder on the table, hands slightly trembling now, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. "He told us," the tallest continued, "that if anything happened to him, this had to reach you." Silence thickened. No one interrupted. Even the CEO didn't rush them, which surprised everyone. The middle boy opened the folder. Inside were documents, emails, internal approvals, altered numbers and timelines meticulously, annotated in a handwriting that was unmistakably their father's. This wasn't a child's stunt. This was evidence. The executives began to protest almost immediately. Words like misinterpretation, out of context, and unauthorized access flew across the table. The boys didn't argue back. They didn't need to. They simply kept going. "Our dad stayed late," one said. "He missed birthdays. School meetings. He said some things matter more than promotions." The CEO's gaze sharpened. "He said," the shortest added, voice cracking for the first time, "that good people don't always get loud. Sometimes they just get pushed aside." That line hit harder than any accusation. The head of operations slammed a hand on the table. "This is inappropriate." "Emotional manipulation." The CEO raised his hand again. Silence returned instantly. He looked at the boys, not as children now, but as messengers. "Do you know what happens to people who bring things like this to me?" They nodded together. "Yes," said the tallest. That's why he was scared. That was the moment something changed. The CEO stood, not abruptly, not dramatically. He stood with the weight of a man who had built an empire on efficiency and profit, and now felt something unfamiliar clawing at the edges of his certainty. "Take them to the lounge," he told his assistant. "Get them food. Call the hospital. I want updates on their father's condition." Then he turned back to the table. "And lock this floor." Panic flashed across certain faces. Others tried to mask it. What the triplets didn't see as they were escorted out was the real storm beginning. The internal systems flagged. Access logs were pulled. Accounts frozen. People who had smiled at charity galas began sweating under quiet scrutiny. In the lounge, the boys sat side by side, hands finally unclenched. None of them spoke. They didn't know if they had done the right thing. They only knew they had done what their father couldn't. A nurse called. Their father was stable, unconscious but alive. Relief washed over them silently. Back in the boardroom, the CEO stared at the documents again. He recognized patterns he had ignored for years. Profits inflated by shortcuts. Ethics reports buried by bureaucracy. Good employees punished for slowing things down. And one man, quietly doing his job, had nearly lost everything for refusing to look away. The CEO closed the folder slowly. For the first time in a long time, the most powerful man in the room felt ashamed. Not because of what the triplets had exposed, but because it took 3 children to bring the truth to his door.